Hey guys, Mike here with EBR, and this is the Allant Plus 8S, and it's made by Trek, a brand you're likely already very familiar with because they've been a leader in the cycling world for decades now. And this is their take on a modern electric cruiser. But stick around with me, we'll go through some of the parts, components, and real-world performance and see if the Trek Allant Plus 8S is the right e-bike for you. So this bike is a Class 3 commuter e-bike, meaning it can get up to 28 miles an hour on pedal assist alone, and there is no throttle on this bike. Now this has an MSRP of $3,199, and it is UL 2849 certified. Now when it comes to weight, this bike is advertised as weighing 53.6 pounds. I threw this one on the scale, which is a large, and it came in right at around 57 pounds. Now, in terms of frames, you have 3 frame sizes and 2 color options. This color option is the lithium gray with a high contrast, kind of a neon yellowish green Trek logo, along with a neon yellowish green name of the model here on the top tube. Then their other color is the matte metallic gunmetal, which is more of a silverish color, and then the contrasting colors are more of a dark color. So you have brighter options and more subdued options if that's your taste. Now in terms of frame sizes, there's medium, large, and extra large. This is the large frame here. Now the medium fits riders 5'5" to 5'9". The large here fits riders 5'9" up to 6'1". I'm 5'11", so kind of right in the middle there, and it fits me very well. And then the extra large fits riders 6'1" all the way up to 6'6". Now the max payload capacity on this bike is 300 pounds. And some geometry numbers for this large frame. The standover height here is 32.9 inches. The wheelbase from rear hub to front hub is 45.2 inches. The reach up top is around 16 inches. And then you have about minimum and maximum seat height goes from around 19 inches up to about 24 inches. So all in all, several sizes to fit a wide range of riders there and a couple color options to work with. Now in terms of wheels, they went with a black alloy 27.5 inch wheel, and they wrapped those in Bontrager E6 hard cased tires with a reflective stripe, and they have a nice city commuter tread pattern on them. In terms of fenders and racks here, we do have an included rear rack that's rated for 31 pounds, and then front and back fenders are black alloy fenders that have supporting struts, and they actually are very solid in place. They don't really rattle or anything when you're riding, which is always a good thing with fenders. In terms of lighting, it does come with a 500 lumen headlight and a 50 lumen tail light that's hardwired through the fender. The tail light is on and it pulses all the time, but it does not act as a brake light. That's something I'd like to see added maybe in future iterations. But for now, you do have really high visibility headlights up front that really at 500 lumens, you've got a lot of viewing distance and people are able to see you coming and you're able to see where you're going. And then you have the luxury of the taillight that pulses in the back, especially in city commuting. That's always a nice feature as well. And when it comes to mounting points, you do have 3 on the down tube here, 2 on the underside of the top tube, and then of course your mounting points for your fenders and racks on the front and rear tire. Plus, Trek offers a whole lineup of accessories, everything from apparel to bike parts. You can really go wild on Trek's website, so just take a look and you'll see they have quite a bit to pick from there. So when it comes to the motor on the Allant Plus 8S, you have a mid-drive motor located right here in the bottom bracket, and this motor is made by Bosch. Now Bosch has several motors, but this is their performance speed line, and it has 250 nominal watts that can peak at 600 watts and has a respectable 85 Newton meters of torque. Now there's 4 riding modes and they're activated through a torque sensor. Those riding modes are Eco, Tour, Sport, and Turbo, and each gets progressively stronger as you go up there along those pedal assist numbers. Now the battery powering this motor is a 625 watt hour battery. It's a 36 volt with 17.4 amp hours. And it does come with a key that you can lock to keep on the bike, or you can unlock it, remove it, and charge the battery off the bike, or just remove it for security purposes. But I'll show you how that comes off now. So this key here, the keyhole's on the opposite side. So let me just get a peek here. And you'll turn that key and that'll pop this out. Now you'll see this little lever pops up with a down arrow. That'll halfway release it. Once you push that down and pull it out, that'll fully release it. And when it comes to warranties on this, so the frame and fork themselves have a lifetime warranty, which is really awesome. And everything electrical like motor, battery, and display or other electrical components, those have a 2-year warranty or 600 charge cycles, whichever comes first. Now you can put this battery back by putting the base in first and then popping the top in, and then you're good to go and you can pull the key out. Now, when it comes to range, Trek doesn't advertise a specific number like a lot of brands do. They have a calculator on their website where you can put in your bike's info and it'll give you some rough estimates based on these numbers. But we wanted to know the real world numbers, so we ran 2 range tests. We did the first on eco mode, so the lowest pedal assist, and we got a solid 75 miles out of a single charge. We charged it up again, rode it on turbo mode, and this time we got 30 miles. So between 30 and 75 miles on one charge is really great range numbers, and especially on a commuter bike like this, it just works out well. So when it comes to the component lineup on the Allant Plus 8S, Trek does not disappoint. So the theme on it is overall Shimano Dior 10-speed, and that 10-speed consists of a 46-tooth chainring with a nice alloy chain guard. Normally on some of my performance-oriented bikes, I don't do chain guards, but on a commuter bike, this is a really nice feature because when you're riding into work and commuting, you don't want to show up with chain grease on your work pants. So having that is a nice little addition, especially on a commuter bike. Now, this chainring, 46 tooth, but it's mated to an 11 to 42 tooth rear cassette, giving you about a 460% range in your gearing. The brakes on this are hydraulic disc brakes, and they're made by Tektro, and it's the Orion 4-piston series. So 4 piston calipers, both front and back, mated to 180 millimeter rotors, and the rotors themselves are a 6-bolt design, and they have a thickness of about 1.8 millimeters. Now, the saddle here is made by Bontrager, and it's their commuter comp saddle. It's got a narrow profile, good for pedaling, and has the comfort you'd expect from a nice Bontrager saddle. But let's move up to the cockpit and talk about some of the components up there. So starting things off, you have an alloy handlebar that's a flat bar design, and the width on this handlebar on a medium frame is going to be 600 millimeters, but on the large and extra large like we have here, it's 660 millimeters. Now, on both ends, you have Bontrager Satellite Elite grips that are lock-on and have a nice platform ergonomic feel to them. Really good for the geometry because it's kind of a bike you're going to be leaning into those grips a little bit. And with the platforms, it just makes for a comfortable place to rest your palms. And I like the way I just like the ergonomics of this bike. The side over here has your PAS buttons and your control buttons for the display. Then you have your light button here. On the other side, the right side, you have your Shimano Dior 10-speed trigger shifters, and then your brake levers are going to be your Tektro Orion 4P brake levers. Now, when it comes to the management of wires and cables, there are a couple wires coming off the front end here, but they're all internally routed here at the head tube down into the rest of the frame. Finally, here in the center, we have the Bosch smartphone hub mount, which in its true condition is meant to hold your cell phone as you use your app for the bike's display. But this is a demo bike. These get sent to multiple people, and ours had a broken mount for the display. So we'll go into the next section. I'll talk about the display and I'll show you how that's going to work. But just know that even if this mount is broken, it still has a small display that has everything you need. But let's jump into the display and app itself and just take a closer look. All right, so like I said, this is the smartphone hub display. Now, it's got a simple display that can be used at any time, whether you use your phone or not. Now, the way this normally comes is this comes with an actual full mount to put your phone in and then use this app, and it would sit right here normally. But like I said, this is a demo bike. It's been passed around to some other publishers, so it did break somewhere along the way. But if you'll notice here, it says app mode. Now, if I was to close this app altogether, it would go back to a simple display. Now, on this display, you have your speed, you have your range and mileage, your battery percentage, and its current mode is in turbo, but you can lower that.
Eco, off.
You can also remove that voice if you don't want that voice on there. And then you've got your headlight indicator and the fact that your phone is paired to the bike. Now, all you need to do to get back into the app is open it, and that will get rid of this and say it's in app mode, which means all your controls of the bike are now through the app. You can manage that with the buttons here on the left or use your fingers. Either one actually works. So on the home screen, you have your distance of your last ride, your duration, the average speed, current time, phone's battery level, the real feel temperature outside. Then you have your submenu over here, which is currently in the health tracking, which we'll go over in just a few minutes. Down here, you have your battery indicator and light indicator and your your current level of PAS.
Contact, fitness.
So let's go into this section right here. This will give you your temperature outside along with the weather as you move forward in the day. You can kind of pre-plan your ride based on that. Here, if you don't want to hear the audible changing of menus, you can just hit that there and that'll turn off the voice sound. It'll still do all the commands, it'll just turn off the actual speaking part. And then this turns off and on the USB power supply. So if you wanted to charge your phone while it was in, there is a small USB port located right on the back, and you could have a small cable and just charge your phone while it was on the bike. So we'll close that menu here and we'll take a look at some of these sub menus. So it's currently in health tracking. Let's move over one to contacts. You can give this app permission to your contacts and then just hit one of the names in your contacts and call someone while you're riding. You can see your compass, direction of travel, and your location. We're currently on the Santa Clara River Trail with a southeast direction and the actual numerical degree, 137, 35-ish degrees. So we'll hit one over and that will take us to our music. You can let this get a hold of your music playlist and it will play your music, and you control it right there through the sub menu. And then one more click takes you to the health tracking, which is the last feature here to talk about, but it's one of the coolest ones on here. You can connect your watches, your heart rate monitors, your power meters, your cadence sensors, and it will give you all of these numbers as you're riding your bike, and you can go back and look at your performance once you get home. So the app is really cool. It will track your rides, it will track your health, and allow you to do everything, including your music, phone calls, and health tracking through the app. Or if you don't feel like messing with all of that, you can simply keep your phone in your pocket, and that will just activate the simple display here in the center, and you can ride the bike just like this without using your phone at all. So you've got options, you've got super techie and tracking options, or you've got super simple options, but either way, it's a very nice setup. Just unfortunately, we couldn't use the mount this time around, but all in all, it worked flawlessly on my rides despite the mount issue, and it was cool to have all that data right on hand. All right, guys, so that makes up kind of the parts and components and display. Let me go grab my helmet and we'll go out on a ride and talk about how this thing actually feels and brakes and the performance, just in the real world, what it actually feels like. And then we'll talk with Ben, our mechanic, and get his thoughts from a design and component standpoint, and then we'll wrap this up. All right, we're out here on the Trek Allant, and this is a dedicated commuter slash city bike. So one thing you'll notice right off the bat is with a rigid frame and a city style commuter bike, if you're coming from like a mountain bike or something with some suspension on it, maybe you're upgrading to this, then you will notice just the bumps in the road that you wouldn't normally feel when you have suspension. However, on smooth streets like this, city path, it's really kind of a non-issue at all. Unless it's the occasional pothole or just rough area, you're gonna be fine. And those of you coming from a commuter bike, just upgrading it, you won't think anything of it at all. Now, what helps in that area is the tires, these Bontrager 27.5 by 2.4 inch hard cased commuter tires. They have a nice, almost like a moped style tread pattern on them. And the tires are actually stamped with the word moped. So I think they went with kind of a more durable moped tire. You can air these down just a bit, take the edge off some of the bumps as well, which is always helpful. The riding position is not fully upright, but it's also not super down low aggressive like a road or a mountain bike. You're kind of about halfway, leaning into these handlebars, which is helpful with these ergonomic grips. And really, it's just super comfortable to ride. There's no issues in comfort department. Once you're just kind of mentally understanding you're on a rigid frame and not in something with suspension. Now the brakes are 4-piston calipers, and these are made by Tektro, and it's the Orion series. And they work really well. I'll get up to about 20 here and do a little sudden stop, so some hard braking here. So 3, 2, 1. Nice. There's a lot of modularity, and you can feel when the wall hits on the brake, or as you enter that braking area, you can feel in the levers, and then you can really push harder, lighter. You can really control your stop well. The modularity is very nice in these brakes. You feel like you're in control the entire time. Even that sudden stop, I felt like I had good control. So the motor's the 250 watt Bosch Performance Speed Line. And these are just really great motors. 250 nominal watts, peaks at 600, and 85 Newton meters of torque. Riding all over town, light hills, rolling hills, the occasional steep hill, and then mostly flats. This motor just shreds everywhere it goes. It's got lots of confident power, and I don't ever find myself wanting more. So if you notice here, the display setup. This is the Bosch Smartphone Hub display mount that really is supposed to act as your phone mount and then give you this display here on the screen. But we got a demo bike that's sent to a lot of publishers, and because of that, it's somewhere along the way it got damaged and we can't use it. But fortunately, if it does break, we just put on a regular bike mount for a phone, and that works just as well. You still get the same display you'd normally get. And if you don't want to use your phone at all, you can use the built-in display, the little smaller, kind of abbreviated display. It's still got all your basic info. So whether you use the phone or not, it's kind of irrelevant. You just get more data on the phone, like we showed you guys just a second ago. So all in all, guys, ride's really nice. It really would be just a beast of a commuter. It's really good, really smooth. And on these flat roads, it just feels like you're kind of gliding along. So all in all, super good job on this bike. I really enjoy riding it. But let's go talk to Ben, the mechanic, and get his thoughts as well. All right, guys, this is that time in the review where we get with Ben, our in-house mechanic, and just get his thoughts on the Trek Allant here. And I'm going to let you do your thing, Ben, and get out of your way. Thank you again to Feedback Sports. They've got this Pro HD rack we've been using and some toolkits. So if you like to tinker on your bike and you want to check out their stuff, I'll put a link down in the description. So Ben, just kind of kick things off with what you like about the Allant.
All right, thanks, Mike. I really like this bike. It's super light, really sleek, great design. I'm always a fan specifically of through axle on the forks. It just makes steering, especially on a bike that's made to go fast, and this thing does go fast, makes the steering really solid and stable. A rigid fork on this bike, to me, fits perfectly. I would rather see something nice like this than a heavy suspension fork that doesn't work all that well and maybe even has some play, so big ups on the fork. 4-piston brakes. On this light bike, it's not necessary, but man, they sure do work well. I love Tektro 4 pistons. They feel good. They've got a great lever on them, so you can grab a whole bunch of brake or control your stopping whenever you'd like to. One thing that I think some companies overlook is the width of the rims. These are nice wide rims coupled with a nice wide tire. So what does that do to you or for you as a rider? That makes it a big volume, high volume tire. So man, these things do ride really smooth. I love the way that feels. As far as the bottom bracket goes, you guys have heard me call it out on different bikes with different companies. This is using the ISIS style oversized bottom bracket. I will always love that. It just feels better, rides stronger, just a better platform to put your body on. I guess lastly on this one is going to be something that I do comment from time to time, the tapered steer tube, so you get a lot more front end strength, and then the threadless stem and fork, so it just makes getting a different stem, if you have a different position that you prefer, makes it very easy to find in your local bike shop.
All right, now, and what kind of things would you improve on the Allant?
Great question. So from this one, we'll go back to front. I'm a little confused on this rack, if you want to call it that. I know that it's made to mount fender or panniers, but you can't mount it. It doesn't have a platform. So to me, it only serves one purpose. I've ridden with racks a lot in life, and it's really nice. If you just got a pair of tennis shoes, you want to take your lunch to work, something like that, a nice flat platform sure would suit this bike. It would just make it more effective, more universal. For some reason, the battery, and they may have fixed this on newer or different models, but it's not a very tight fit. And to me, it's not so much the water that'll get in, but dirt and other things that'll get in there. So I'd like to see a little bit closer fit right there on the battery. The plastic pedals, I will complain about these just because I know they're inexpensive and it can bring the price down at retail a little bit, but they just don't last very long. A bike like this that's made to last a long time, aluminum bodied pedals just seem that it would fit the bike a little bit better. That's just me. I typically am not a fan of metal fenders, but in this case they use aluminum fenders, so they're nice and light and they're going to hold their shape. Nice black anodized, so they look great. Maybe they won't rattle as much as a plastic fender will, and that's pretty much that. And then the last thing that I'll say, and then this isn't against Trek, and this isn't really anything against anybody, but the rear derailleur has a clutch mechanism. From Shimano, this clutch mechanism was originally brought out specifically for downhill bikes, to make it so there's a lot less chain slap. When the suspension is actuating and you're going over some real rough terrain, no suspension, it's a street bike. Sometimes these clutch mechanisms will wear your derailleur spring out quicker when it's left on too long and you're shifting. So I feel like this could just go away, could save a couple of dollars, save a little bit weight, save a little bit of weight, and then the derailleur will last longer. Other than that, this bike is pretty dang awesome.
Awesome, man. Hey, thanks again for your time, Ben.
All right, thanks, Mike.
So to wrap things up with the Trek Allant Plus 8S, you can tell with this bike there was a lot of thought put into the design. You can tell Trek has decades of engineering experience building bikes, and it just shows in this commuter. The component lineup is a good fit for this bike. The Bosch Performance Speedline motor is one of the better ones I've ever felt. And when you ride this bike, the geometry, the handling, and just the smoothness of it all stand out to you, and you just get the feeling you're riding a high-end electric bike. Now, is it the right electric commuter for you? Well, that's going to be for you to decide. But while you're here, I hope you enjoyed this review. Like and subscribe. I'm Mike with EBR, and we'll see you guys in the next review.